Nintendo is on a warpath to in fact ruin the entire gaming industry. No, I'm not being facetious. This is actually happening right in front of your eyes, and people are too blind to even notice it. Nintendo was in fact the first company to raise prices of video games to $80, causing so many other publishers and developers to in fact do the same. Good job, Microsoft. Way to screw everything up. But hey, that's not the only thing that happened. They've also introduced variable pricing as well, which means that the more excited you are about a video game, or the more they know that they can squeeze out any hype out of you, is the more a game is going to cost. So yeah, that's going to be a fun time. I'm sure Zelda won't be $90 at some point, right? But you see, this isn't the only place that Nintendo is in fact flexing their muscles. They've continuously gone after emulators and even ROM sites, removing the ability for you to actually play the older games, while also not selling you those older games either, and drip feeding them to you in a really weird sort of like online service that just gets games randomly out of nowhere, even though the Wii Shop was the best version of that, and they failed to copy that still to this day. But hey, look, it can't be that bad, right? It's not like Nintendo's just going to go around and start throwing lawsuits at people to make them change their game because they're too lazy to actually put out a good Pokemon game, right? Sadly, that's exactly what happened. You see, Palworld came out in January of 2024 to much acclaim, actually, because people were expecting and wanting a new type of Pokemon game, which, granted, after you've seen everything that they've done recently, it's pretty much, yeah, they've just hit the well too many times, and Nintendo really doesn't know what they're doing with that franchise anymore. But that's not the actual point that I'm trying to make. The thing is, Palworld specifically went around and iterated on everything that was happening with Pokemon and made things new and fresh again for people to enjoy that kind of style of game, which is honestly great. True competition in the marketplace. That's what everybody wants. Hopefully that'll get Nintendo to put a battery in their back and do something great with the next Pokemon franchise, right? No, what they did instead was Nintendo just a few months later went around and decided to patent actual gameplay mechanics inside of video games to say, hey, if you want to do this kind of thing, we own that. And the crazy part is these aren't incredibly detailed things. These are very generic things happening in the actual gaming space. I mean, take a look at these patents specifically. The first patent owned by Nintendo and the Pokemon Company covers a mechanic for capturing and throwing an object, such as a Pokeball, in a virtual environment. It involves aiming in the direction based on player input and determining capture success. Nintendo claims Palworld's creature capture system is too similar to this patented gameplay method. My boy, any capture creature system does that specifically. This is so broad and insane that they are trying to patent throwing in a video game with a spherical object. That is ridiculous. What else would it be? You can't sit there and say they're not doing this specifically to hurt Palworld, but the patents continue. The second one is one that focuses on character movement and collision, specifically in scenarios involving character interactions and pathfinding. Okay, it also addresses a mechanic where players engage in battles by launching one creature at another. Nintendo alleges that Palworld's mechanics around creature combat infringe on this patent. So, Digimon, anything that's just creature-oriented based, they're just gonna own outright. Character pathfinding? Are you fucking kidding me? Moving around the actual space in a 3D environment or even 2D, you now own Nintendo? That's not how these things work. That's honestly ridiculous. And to have small creatures fight each other, so the World of Warcraft pet battler, that you own that too apparently? How is this even just a normal processed thing? This is beyond the reach, but there's a third patent as well because it gets worse like it always tends to do. The third patent describes a dynamic mounting system for characters moving across land, air, and water, allowing seamless transitions between different types of terrain. Nintendo argues that Palworld's use of a similar system of player-controlled creatures and mounts infringes on this patent as well. So just mounts, just So just mounts in a video game Nintendo now owns. This is the exact reason why people do not like Nintendo and why they're consistently going around and trying to flex their legal muscle in ways that are going to impact the gaming industry negatively. By these 3 patents alone, that were of course approved months after Palworld came out, goes to show Nintendo is in fact full of their own hubris directly. These patents fly in the face of not just Palworld, but basically every single other game. The most notable one being World of Warcraft, where you in fact have a pet battler system where you go ahead and you do capture other items and characters and monsters in that game for the pet battler mechanic, where you also have a mount that you then fly across other multiple lands through seamless transitions in certain zones. It's just the most idiotic thing. So basically every MMO, every single player game, every monster capture game is basically owned by Nintendo and you can't do anything about it. These patents should not have been approved, period, end of story, especially going through and doing them specifically after Palworld came out so that way they can control. And then they turned around and they sued Palworld using these patents after the game came out, after they patented everything, for 10 million yen. How anybody can defend this company simply because of just them walking around and being like, well, they got Mario and Zelda, so they're good in my book, is wild to me. But the thing is, this history lesson that happened last year is still going, because yesterday, Palworld had to tweet this out specifically. Regarding the lawsuit changes to Palworld and the future, we would like to express our sincere gratitude and appreciation for the continued support of our fans over the past few months. We apologize for not being able to share as much information as we would like, but we trust our fans understand how difficult it is to be fully transparent while litigation is ongoing. Currently, we remain involved in a prolonged legal proceedings regarding alleged patent infringement. We continue to dispute these claims and assert the invalidity of the patents in question. However, we have had to make certain compromises in order to avoid disruptions to the development of the distribution of Palworld. On November 30th, 2024, we released patch 0.3.11 for Palworld. This patch removed the ability to summon pals by throwing pal spheres and instead changed it to a static summon next to the player. Several other game mechanics were also changed with this patch. As many have speculated, these changes were indeed a result of ongoing litigation. Everyone here at Pocket Pair was disappointed that this adjustment had to be made, and we fully understand that many players feel the same frustration. Unfortunately, as the alternative would have led to an even greater deterioration of the gameplay experience for players, it was determined that this change was necessary. Furthermore, we regret to inform our players that with the implementation of patch 0.5.5, we must make yet another compromise. From this patch onward, gliding will be performed using a glider rather than with the pals. Pals in the player's team will still provide passive buffs to gliding, but players will now need to have a glider in their inventory in order to glide. We understand this will be disappointing for many, just as it is for us, but we hope our fans understand that these changes are necessary in order to prevent further disruptions to the development of Palworld. We also want to extend our apologies to our fans for the discomfort and concern this ongoing litigation has caused. We remain committed to developing Palworld and delivering exciting new content for our fans. On behalf of everyone at Pocket Pair and Team Palworld, thank you again for your continued support. This is how far things have been going for Palworld, having to do direct gameplay mechanic changes simply because Nintendo does not have the testicular fortitude to go around and say, hey, this other company made a better Pokemon game than we did. Instead of saying we should do better and then take those ideas and then implement them in your own Nintendo-like way, what you're doing instead is trying to control the video game market. We've seen this happen before and it has ended in catastrophe. Remember Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor? The entire Nemesis system, it is locked behind a patent and no one can use it simply because Warner Brothers was in fact too greedy to realize we've got a great idea on our hands and have done nothing with it since. On top of that, it is now getting to the point that WB and their gameplay studios and Discovery could in fact be split into multiple companies, leading people to never in fact use an Nemesis system ever again in any other video game simply because they control the patent. Or how about Ridge Racer, when they wanted to go ahead and have the loading screen be an actual game inside of that, so you can play a small Ridge Racer type game while you're in fact loading for the game to go through. If you were a PS1 or PS2 or PS3 player, you knew about this. The thing is, though, because of that patent specifically, no other game developer could use that style of mechanic or even that kind of thing directly in any other game. This goes far beyond any sort of trying to stop people from either copying your game directly or trying to go ahead and say, hey, you can't do what we want with emulators or for ROMs. This is direct control over other video game companies and developers. And this is a problem in the gaming industry, because if this kind of thing does in fact happen and go through, then who knows what length is going to occur with other publishers and developers using and abusing patent infringement for other game companies to in fact not make games. One perfect example that I can think of is Expedition 33. The influences of Persona, Final Fantasy, and every other tactical turn-based action RPG or Japanese role-playing game is in a melting pot inside of this game directly, making it incredibly amazing and fun to play. Imagine if Sega filed a patent that you cannot have a specific stylized menu inside of a turn-based JRPG because they had it first with Persona. That would ruin directly the entire style of Expedition 33. Or imagine if Monolith Software and Nintendo then patented and said, hey, you can't have mechs that you jump into or call inside of your actual game because we have Xenosaga and the Xenoblade series doing that directly first. So we own that. That's how we do things around here. No other JRPG can do that. Chain decos? Nah, you got to go ahead and chain yourself to something else, my boy, because you're not getting away with any of this. The entire concept and stratosphere of what this can actually impact in the gaming industry is far more than just
you copied Pokemon, stop copying Pokemon.
The ramifications could extend to far greater impacts across the gaming industry completely, because it could give precedence and credence to every other publisher and developer doing this exact same thing. And if you don't believe me that they will, look at everything happening right now with Nintendo saying we're going to charge $80 for Mario Kart. What happened? Everybody else now is lining up to charge $80 for their video game. Everybody else now is lining up to increase the price of their consoles. Everybody's just copying everybody else. And the thing is, letting Nintendo get away with this is truly going to be the worst case for everyone. Not just people who like Nintendo, not just people who don't like Nintendo, but the gaming industry as a whole. This industry takes ideas and concepts from other people and places and adds it and provides their own style and flair to it. That's exactly why we have games like Expedition 33 come out. That's exactly why we have Path of Exile and Last Epoch from Diablo. It's exactly why so many other MMOs tried to be the World of Warcraft killer, because they all thought to themselves, hey, we can do what they're doing, but better. But instead of Nintendo nutting up and saying, hey, we should do something with our actual franchise, they're going to go ahead and file patents after the game was launched and try to go ahead and reverse sue basically Palworld and say, no, we own direct gameplay mechanics. The fact that they are talking about player pathing in a video game, which basically means where you walk in a video game, that is a direct aspect and huge mechanic that every game has to deal with. That is ridiculous in concept. The fact that they want to control basically directly how you play and capture monster pets inside of a game is a direct issue overall. And even mounts of all things, that's even crazier, because you could literally make the claim that anything you ride and or glide is in fact a mount, even if it is a creature or a glider, and Nintendo can use that to their advantage. People talk about the Nintendo ninjas, the fact that they're going around and trying to sue Genki directly for leaking the Switch 2 aspects, even though everybody knows what the Switch 2 looked like already from everything else that they've put out. Or the fact that this company goes around and, like I said before, will sue every other website into oblivion because they want to go ahead and stop ROMs being used, even though they'll sue the actual emulators, take them down, control the source code, and then turn right around and use that exact same source code to emulate their Switch 1 games on their Switch 2. what else can you do? Like what else can there be for people not to realize this company is in fact one of the worst companies inside of video games? Don't let your nostalgia goggles blind you from what is actually happening. If these patent infringements do go in the way of Nintendo, this is going to set a precedent far worse than what everybody else could have actually imagined, and this is going to be a negative impact and a net negative overall for the gaming industry. Going around and filing patents after the fact and then trying to sue for patent infringement after the fact really is the most petty bullshit baby garbage way of actually behaving. It literally says you lost the game and the only way that you want to win now is to bury them under legal fees. But you know what? Hopefully things go in the right way of Palworld and not in the way of Nintendo, because that would in fact give direct control of Nintendo to actually monopolize patent infringement for every other thing that's happening in the video game space that they want to go ahead and control, which would never be a good thing, period, for any company to do, regardless of whether it's Nintendo, Microsoft, or even PlayStation. But you know what? Let me know what you guys think in the comments section down below. Are you still playing Palworld? Are you guys enjoying the actual game so far? And of course, do you agree with what Nintendo is doing, or do you disagree? I'd love to find out and see what you guys have to say. If you want to see more of this kind of content, more PC port reviews, gaming news, Steam Deck videos, fanboy content, my hot takes in the gaming industry, and live streams every Saturday night, 8:45 p.m. Eastern, subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 83,000 subs. And I just want to say, thank you guys so very much. If you want to go ahead and get Discord access or emotes during live streams, become a YouTube member. It's as low as $1. If you don't want to spend the buck, don't sweat it. Just come on down Saturday nights, 8:45 p.m. Eastern. Trust me, you have a hell of a time. With all that being said, though, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a great one, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace!